We are kicking off this hour with our discussion on the N18 and M18 and what can be done following a recent spike in collisions in recent months. Joining me to discuss all of this in studio are Colum Frawley, Senior Assistant Chief Fire Officer with Clare Fire and Rescue Service. Good morning to you, Colum.
Morning, Alan. Morning, listeners.
Thanks very much for coming in. Also with us is our previous in profile guest, Seán O'Neill, the Director of Corporate Communications with Transport Infrastructure Ireland. Seán, how are you?
Good morning, Alan.
Thanks very much to both of you for coming in, gents. I'll just start off mentioning some of the figures. So from the start of September to the start of December, there were 41 road crashes on the M18, N18. 32 of those, according to data from yourselves at the TII, Seán, 32 of those took place in Clare, 5 between on the county boundary, Clare-Galway, so that's between junctions 15 and 16. And then even after that, 2 weeks before Christmas, just to give an additional example, on the 11th of December last, there were 2 separate road traffic collisions on the road. There were 4 cars in a collision on the southbound lane of the N18 between Junction 6 Bunratty and Junction 5 Cratloe, and then separately there was a 2-vehicle collision on the northbound lane of the M18 between the exits for Newmarket and Fergus and Dromoland. Colum, I'll come to you first for the emergency services point of view, whether you've noticed a real change on the ground. But maybe before discussing that, I know you have kind of some figures from your perspective, so would love to hear those to see if there's any additional data there.
Yeah, Alan, yeah. So I suppose a lot of the incidents we see are happening morning and evening time. There's high traffic volumes at them periods. So we're asking people to give extra time during them people to travel. But I suppose the stats from our side, the 1st of September to the 1st of December, we had about approximately 40 incidents attended on the motorway. And previous to that, from the 1st of January to the 31st of August, there was only about 18 incidents attended.
Okay, so we were talking a huge 200% increase.
Yes, yeah. And I suppose what we have noticed, especially during the cold spell, I suppose the last 2 weeks, Alan, there was, although the traffic volumes were low, there was only 2 incidents. So what we do see during them periods, the driver attitude appears to change during these periods, like cold spells or storms. The driver attitude does change. So there was only 2 incidents during the cold spell that just happened. So
okay, well, it's good to hear at least people are taking the weather into account. There. From the figures we've just mentioned, Seán, what's the TII's reading on it? What does the data tell you? Or
well, what the data tells us is that there's a combination of engineering, education, and enforcement. Across the country, we need to take in hand our own behaviour as individuals driving. We make some crazy decisions sometimes. There might be somebody very slow in front of us and we just zip out and across and we make a rush decision to change lanes. People are using their phones. People are distracted. So there's a lot going on with our own individual behaviour that we need to all be accounted for and take action against the more dangerous things we might do. So cognizance, be aware of what you're doing. You're driving a car, you're on a motorway. The motorway has a speed limit of 120 kilometres. Don't go over that. Don't. It's just not asking. You're just asking for trouble. So enforcement is going to be part of that. The guards can't monitor everything everywhere all the time. So you have your own enforcement requirements too. So behave accordingly and drive safely. Engineering. From an engineering perspective, we're going to be putting up TIs. We've talked to our colleagues at the local authority and we're dealing with our operations and maintenance people, and we're going to be putting up some more VMS signs, variable message signs, to inform people if there's incidents or accidents nearby or just bad weather, etc. And then additionally, we're going to be elongating some of the egress and exits. So if you're getting off the motorway, for example, Junction 13, which is a tight radius design interchange, we can elongate the off-ramp and basically take a bit more of space in the hard shoulder, give you more time to slow down. But people in the local environment should know that's a tight radius designed interchange. Please slow down as you approach it and you'll avoid any potential overcorrections that are required. So that's really it. So it's engineering, education and enforcement. Those 3 combinations are going to help change the incidents that are happening. But this is a countrywide issue. Volumes of traffic all over the country are increasing dramatically. So
the spike we're seeing in the N18, M18, it's not especially unique nationally?
It's nationally, we're seeing it pop up in population zones. Okay, so it kind of correlates to statistics.
Okay.
As populations increase, behaviour is there, and accordingly you see these incidents occur. Fortunately, as we're hearing, the incidents have been minor, but that doesn't mean it can't turn into something very serious and life-altering.
Yeah, and then thankfully they are minor incidents, but I suppose, Colum, it still causes huge issues for those involved in the incidents. It can be a big shock, or they might have a minor injury. And I've seen it myself when I'm driving to and from work. I think once I've been caught up in tailbacks as a result of an incident, but quite often. I don't know if I just got a 4-leaf clover in my back pocket. I've seen it over the other, whatever side of the motorway I'm on. It's happened on the other side, and you just see, especially in the morning, huge tailbacks. So everything grinds to a halt for a significant period of time.
Yeah, you're dead right, Alan. The majority are not serious to the fire brigade personnel going out, but they are major incidents to the person involved. Possibly a broken bone, person has to go off work, they have insurance, financial costs, vehicle. I suppose what we're seeing on the ground is driver behaviour. Even when we're at the incidents, we're seeing people, I suppose cars have improved, the technology's improved in cars, there's bigger screens in cars with apps, they're touching, they're using their phones, which you're not supposed to be using. Personnel are speeding, so we are adhering to people to adhere to speed limits, keep separation distance between the vehicle in front of you, especially when the road conditions change or due to the weather conditions, the road surface. We're seeing all this when we are, as you said, on the opposite side of the road. You can see it on the other side. Even myself, I've been there a few times and seen them. Another thing what we're noticing is incidents are happening within the distance of the exits and entrance, the on and off ramps to the motorway. They're well signposted, so you know there's going to be an on and off ramp. So please adhere to that and keep notice to it.
So would that suggest then, Seán, that cars, when other cars are merging onto a motorway, you should slow down or allow them to come on or move into the right lane, but that people aren't, they're either speeding up or there isn't appropriate enough behaviour about allowing others onto the motorway.
Yeah, that is part of the issues, is people learning how to, again, allowing people access. It's not a game of chance here. You have to allow people merging distances. If that means you have to slow down, and then you can go past them if they're not going to the.
Because I suppose, just sorry to cut across you, but for some there might be this good instinct of they've been flying along and they're going to work and they're making good time, and then they see someone by comparison to them slowly merging up the motorway. God.
No, you're right. It's behaviour.
Without thinking,
you sit there and go, I'll go.
I don't want to be slowed down by them, even if it is just for a split second.
Yeah, and that's what happens. And look, we put ourselves under a lot of psychological pressure that we don't really need to, because the difference in the distance and time that your savings in that sort of decision is nothing. It's literally nothing, and you could cause a serious accident. So.
Yeah, certainly not worth causing a serious accident.
Not at all. No.
Colum, you touched on something which I think, anytime we've spoken about, not just on the N and M18, but any sort of roads around the county where there are issues with accidents, the modern cars, there's never been more technology in them. My own car has it, the screen for the radio and playing streaming music or whatever it might be, but I suppose there's other things that come into that. If people are smoking or drinking their tea or their coffee or whatever it might be, or you've got your GPS, you've your Google Maps, there's just so much to take your eye off the road. And I think people think because they have all this, particularly something like Google Maps, you think that's an essential thing to have in your car to help you if you're going somewhere that you're not fully sure where the destination is, but that doesn't mean that they take priority over staring straight ahead and looking at the road.
Exactly, and the key is that you know your surroundings, you're driving, you're watching where you're going, you're not using the extra technology that's in there, because that could possibly, take your eyes off the road for a split second, that could potentially cause that accident, that person slow down in front of you, and then all of a sudden you are travelling at high speed when you're on the motorway. I suppose another thing to bring in is if an incident does occur on the motorway, I suppose from the fire brigade perspective, we will mobilise 2 stations. We always mobilise 2 stations, and the reason behind that is for the safety personnel involved and our own crew members, to make sure they're safe and they're in a safe working zone. I suppose if the incident happens at the lower end of the motorway towards Limerick, it's Limerick and Shannon are mobilised. Innis, around the Innis-Shannon area, it's Innis and Shannon, and north of us is Innis and Gart. What happens there is fire crews will attend with one brigade attending the scene to assess the scene, to help the personnel involved. The other brigade is there to set up a warning system and a traffic management system. As you said, you'd see traffic tailbacks. We do that in conjunction with the Gardaí, usually at 900, 600 and 300, just to warn people that there is an incident ahead, there is something. And a diversion may then have to be put in place to keep the fire crew safe, to keep the personnel involved in the incident safe, and the public travelling.
And just on the column, beyond the traffic delays, have these collisions had any impact on emergency response resources and personnel, or with the setup there? It sounds like you implement a plan straight away. Your crews have never been in any danger or any harm, because ultimately they're doing the work. They're on a motorway.
Yeah, Alan, touch wood. It is a high risk zone. We would classify the motorway as very high risk. Our lads are working on the motorway. In other counties there has been accidents. In Clare, touch wood, we have not had no accident with our fire crew on the motorway. But we have our lads, they're highly trained on emergency traffic management. They set this up to provide a safe working zone. Diversion then may have to be put in place to keep the traffic moving. We will work in conjunction with the Gardaí, and you have to adhere then that we are going through smaller villages or towns, so just be cognizant of that. Then you can't travel at the motorway speed, then you're probably delayed. Keep that in conscious. So that's what we're appealing to the public, just to adhere to the rules of the road, keep your eyes on the road, adhere to the speed limits. Diversions then are put in place, and we keep the traffic moving. That's the reason behind it.
I mean, clearly driver behaviour is a big part of this, and indeed someone getting in touch with this saying on 086 1800 964, driving behaviour, we all know of a problem with the use of mobile phones, people putting on makeup as well. Not an issue for me. I wouldn't save this face if I put makeup on it or not. The listener goes on to say, my question is, with the upspring of drive-through coffee outlets, one can't drive and drink coffee without taking her eye off the road. Yeah, that's touching back on the point we were just making earlier on. Aside from driver behaviour, Seán, can the problem we're seeing here, the spike in collisions, be attributed at all to road layout, merging points, or peak hour congestion, particularly between Ennisshannon and Cratloe? And when I think of emerging points, I'm thinking of, for example, like Junction 5 at Cratloe, where it comes straight out onto the motorway. You can't smoothly merge. It's just you're out, and you have to turn as well, and that's valuable seconds. I thankfully don't come out of there, I try to avoid it.
There's historical legacy design road sections, okay, and what that means is that's not the motorway standard, okay, and that's one of those junctions. So there is designing elements there that are being looked at, but at the same time, it's something to do with speed. And a lot of it is speed. People going into these interchanges at a high rate of speed. And
obviously on speed, you're at the N18 section there, so you're down to 100 kilometres, but that is still...
That's still 100 kilometres.
Still 100 kilometres.
100 kilometres. You don't want... And I think, as was said earlier, like these motorways and these dual carriageways, they're dangerous. You know, they are very dangerous, and we have emergency services out there and people dealing with incidents. And if you are in your car and your car breaks down, please get away from your car, get off the road, get off the hard shoulder, and call for assistance. I do think people, once you're out on a motorway, and I've been on them many times, and in incidents that would have happened, and you stand on the side of you, it's scary. It's a very scary thing. So whatever the design elements are, it's something that we do look at very seriously. We have a safety design engineering team at TII. We do take it very seriously, and we do propose changes where it's required. But again, it's our behaviour is one of the key elements here. And yes, that is a tight radius design. It's part of the historical legacy, and it is something that is under review.
Okay. Colum, do you have a perspective on this? Because, by the sounds of you and your colleagues, you're on the N and M18 more than perhaps you'd like to be.
Yeah, we are on the M18 and N18 more than we would like to be. Touch wood, look, they're not major incidents, but we would appeal to people to slow down. If there is blue lights at all, they're there for a reason. We don't go out there willy-nilly. I suppose we work closely with TII, the Gardaí and National Ambulance Support, and we'd like to and the members of the public, and we'd like to thank them for their support when we are at incidents. They are very patient with us. We're doing a job, but we would appeal, driver behaviour is a key thing, and it's a speed limit, so adhere to them. You don't have to go to the limit, but it's there for a reason, and slow down is the key, especially if you do see incidents on the motorway.
From your perspective, Colum, an enforcement, increased presence or visibility of Gardaí or whatever on the motorway, would that make a difference?
Sure, it's with the Gardaí. They do as best they can with it, and they are doing it. It's their role to enforce it. They are enforcing it. You see the speed vans on the road. It will help, and they are doing it as best they can, I suppose, at the minute. Enforcement is up to the guards. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I suppose, Seán, we know thousands and thousands of people rely on this route on a daily basis. How does the TII balance safety improvements with keeping traffic moving on such a critical artery?
Well, I think it's a combination of making sure, first of all, the motorway is exceptional. It's a really good road, and we all know that. We all travel on it, and it gets us all the way out to Galway and back towards Limerick and onto the Dublin, connected onto the M7. So it is a critical corridor for this part of the country. Ennis in particular has 3 exits, Junction 12, Junction 13 and Junction 14 in Bearfield. So, we're very fortunate in that regard. It's very unusual to have such design elements around a major town. So, the design that goes on with this road and how this road functions and how any road functions around the country, it's an inanimate object. It doesn't care about us. We're the ones that should care. We're the ones should think about our behaviour. And as Colum was saying, we really need to be appreciative of the women and the men that are out there if an incident happens and how their lives are at risk, literally, for our safety. So we just need to all be cognizant of that and remember, it's to the benefit of all of us to use it safely, to use it smartly, and get through it nice and safe, and you'll be fine and get to where you're going.
Yeah, well, as we know, and you mentioned it as well earlier on, Seán, TI is going to review safety along this route. You've highlighted a number of ideas or initiatives you're looking at. I mean, look, all the things people have called for over the past few months, average speed cameras on the N and M18 like we see on the M7 near Limerick, and I know I'm sure we've all used it. It's certainly effective.
Yep,
is that something that perhaps the TI might be considering?
Well, that would be something for the Gardaí. So that sort of traffic regulation is a matter for the Garda, Traffic Corps and the Gardaí in general.
Is that something you can recommend to them, though, having seen how effective it is on the M7?
We can absolutely say that the M7 has been highly effective. And statistically, it has changed behaviour. Because what we have is that you look at a before and after, and once those traffic average speed cameras went in, you had a 90% compliance rate. Automatically.
That's fantastic.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And look, that just shows who we are as people, as human beings. As soon as we see a van, we all, or there's a camera there with a big yellow, gantry holding it up. Oh yeah, this is average speed camera. Slow down. Go the speed limit. And we actually go below the 120. A lot of people on average are going around 115 to 118, which is fine. And so we do change our behaviour based on the potential of consequences. And
I guess another point is that the speed limit is, it's not a target to be reached.
Correct. No,
if you see 100 or 120 kilometres, it doesn't mean like you absolutely have to get as close to that as possible, or even beyond it. It's just that is the speed limit.
And to the opposite too. We do need people to drive accordingly as well. Look, so if people are going exceptionally slow, people make bad decisions, and they basically kind of don't know what to do, and they can go right up on them. There's a real, so if you're on a motorway, please drive accordingly, drive safely, but it's just a matter of, people we've seen things where people make bad decisions because someone's in a very, they're going very slow in front of them, and then you see people bouncing out, and that's dangerous too. So we need everyone to drive accordingly.
Colum, the average speed cameras, do you think that would be effective? Is something you'd like to see?
Sure, look at the stats show it there, as Seán just mentioned. The stats do show it, and look, we all drive and we do see these cameras and we do slow down when we see them. So I do think they are added benefit. There would be an added benefit to the motorway.
Another problem that's been highlighted is by Larry, who's listening. He's a truck driver, and he gave us a call on 0818 400 964 to say the glare from the sun is an issue for him, and he also believes speed cameras should also be erected on the M18. I'm not trying to sound smart, but I suppose use the visor and sunglasses or whatever it is. I know they're not 100% effective. I find myself even sunglasses on sometimes when it's a particularly sunny day. There is still that glare, but it certainly lessens it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there are conditions out there on the sort of, especially during the winter time, where the sun is at a different position in the horizon, and it can glean a lot more reflection on the road surface if there's a bit of water on it, etc. So there's definitely a sort of a paradigm of reflection and refraction, if you want to get into the specifics of it. But basically, we all need to take in accordance. Sunglasses, believe it or not, in the wintertime, it's not a bad idea to have them in your car. I actually have to get a new pair because I lost my other ones. So I just noticed that last week, and I was giving out to myself. I don't know where I lost them. So
well, luckily for you, I have about 6 pairs in my car, so I'll give you a pair for coming in today, and you too as well, Colum. I can't have you left out. Maybe one here to put to you, Seán. A listener's texted in on 086 1800 964 saying there were design changes made to our motorways. Who actually signs off on these? Looks more like a cost-saving exercise. Nobody will be held responsible. Well, they're not exactly giving particular examples there.
Okay. Well, I can give you sort of an overview of how it works. You have engineering design standards that are sort of national, and they've been through the sort of the engineering expertise says, okay, you have a menu. Literally a menu of designs you can choose if you're a contractor on a road. But that's it. You can't go off menu. Okay? And therefore, they're all qualified within the safety corridors, the safety requirements, the design requirements, all of that, all those elements. And that's where you get to choose. Now, the options are, in a highly populated area, you're going to have a 4-leaf clover interchange, a big, massive sort of red cow type of design because of the volumes of traffic. And in a smaller population area, you have an option of a different option on the menu for a tight radius design because the population's smaller. And that's really what happens on the contractual elements of building a motorway, for example. So in our case here on the M18, you look at sort of the Tulla Road exit or the Junction 13. That's a tight radial design because at that time when the contract was out, must have been 15 years ago now, or 20 years ago nearly, 18 years ago, you're looking at a population that was not massive in this region. And so obviously that design standard was fine, because you weren't going to have a lot of vehicles on it. So that's really one of the points that maybe that person's referencing, and I think it's important for people to realize these are all safely designed, engineered, etc.
And that's a good point you make at the time they were made, because we have seen a significant increase in population in Ireland over the last 20 years or so. So this review of safety, Seán, in terms of timeline, can you give us a bit more detail on how many stages there are to it, how long it's expected to take, and when might we expect recommendations or even actions? Hopefully
in the spring we'll start seeing some changes. But I don't have a specific timeline because the safety design elements they are aware. But it's really one of the key elements is going to be VMS signage, putting up variable message signage and letting people know what's happening ahead and what's the exit is coming up, etc. That'll be pretty. I'd like to see by this summer we should see some changes there. But on the design standards and what's going to happen in regards to elongation of the off ramps, etc., that'll take some physical work. So that'll be a contract element to that. So that could take a little bit of time, but it's definitely happening. Okay.
And Colum, look, as you've well explained, yourself and your colleagues have been at enough of these collisions and incidents throughout 2025, aside from other years as well. What message would you like to say directly to drivers out there who use this road every morning and evening? Because you've seen enough examples of, be it driver behaviour or certain things that people are doing or not doing.
So the key is, in 2 words, is driver behaviour. From our point of view, we see it's driver behaviour. So you have extra bits, as we talked about, coffee or drinking a coffee. Just beware. Do you really need that coffee? Can you get to work without it? Screens while you're driving. Do you really need to touch the screen? Do you need to be ringing someone then on your phones? And the speed limit. As you said yourself, Alan, it's not a target, it's a limit. For the extra speed you take, will you get there that bit sooner? And then be cognizant the time you're travelling at during the peak times, morning and evening, there is going to be extra traffic on the road, so it's going to take you that bit extra longer. And just, it's safety on the road for everyone, for yourselves and everyone else.
And I guess, as you say, it's good. It is positive to at least see, with the recent icy conditions, people have been cognizant of that and have taken the appropriate action. Seán, your final message to people?
My final message is exactly as we've all been saying. It's our behaviour, but please, one of the things I've nearly forgotten about that I want to mention is wear your seatbelt. Please wear your seatbelt. Please wear your seatbelt. I see statistics and analysis from a safety team that work with the Road Safety Authority, and I'm actually shocked at the amount of incidents that happen where people don't have their safety belts on. And that creates...
Isn't that incredible?
It is incredible. And it creates a life-altering injury or death.
It's such a... I suppose, look, all of these things, not touching screens and looking at them too often is a seemingly simple thing to do, but easier said than done, perhaps. And I like that. Just clicking in your seatbelt. Most of us, you don't even think about it. It's just an automatic action. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, so I'm just appealing for everyone. Look, it should be automatic for all of us, but unfortunately, statistically, we are seeing that there are incidents where there are no seatbelts being worn, and they are life-altering injuries or death. So wear your seatbelt, please.
Okay, it's incredible. In 2026 we have to put out the message, wear your seatbelt please. But look, there you go. And actually, just before I let you go, Seán, on the person who texted in about design changes being made to the motorways, they followed up to clarify. They say they are referring to the short exit ramps. In their belief, these are simply too short and incorrect design.
Yep, and that's as I discussed.
Yep. Okay. My thanks to both of you. Seán O'Neill, good to see you again. Director of Corporate Communications with Transport Infrastructure Ireland. And Colum Frawley, thank you as well. Colum is Senior Assistant Chief Fire Officer with Clare Fire and Rescue Service.